For me, this was a solid episode that helped us delve into and learn more about Shelley's past, and had a nice character introduction as well by the end of the episode. Akame ga Kill, Episode 5, Kill the Dream. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and gruesome and backstory, character fleshed out, action-heavy, boot-licking, Esdeath appearing tale that is Akame ga Kill. The last couple episodes, and for the most part, a lot of them have stayed very self-contained, and the nice thing about that is that you're able to get some character development, which I have enjoyed. I've enjoyed pretty much for the last 2 or 3 episodes, one character or another actually going on to, kind of mentor or train a little bit with Tatsumi. And again, it gives you that background and that exposition, that character development, and it also kind of shows him getting to know everybody, in the group of Night Raid. So, really, all in all, I tell you, each episode is just insanely fun. The last one, obviously, they took out the Esdeath the Executioner, and things kind of ended off with, certainly Tatsumi being back at Night Raid's headquarters and being patched up and kind of licking his wounds, so to speak. So, this episode, though, winds up picking up, and there's a lot of content in it, and I liked it because it wasn't all jammed together, but there was a lot of little things that happened that I think are really kind of all building up to some of the bigger things that have happened, because everybody tells me, oh, just wait, it's gonna get crazy, And I can definitely kind of see the writing on the wall with that. But we wind up getting a bit of a, I thought it was kind of a heartfelt moment. Every episode since the first one, Tatsumi has obviously, kind of been mourning the loss of his friends. And it was kind of neat to see because Shelley, and that's how they pronounce it, even though it says on the screen like Shield, but Shelley, who's now tasked with, she's the one that has the Imperial arms, that's the big like scissors or whatever, and she's going to be mentoring him for this portion of it. So anyway, she winds up kind of hanging with him and coming to him, and he's kneeling down over the grave sites of his fallen friends, and he's clearly upset. Winds up eventually breaking out, and he starts crying and everything else. And nonetheless, what she winds up doing is she winds up comforting him and then giving him some background into, and us, I guess, as the viewer, some background into her past. And the whole flashback, and a lot of people say, well, it's just cliche and it's this and it's that. Once you've seen enough of anything, you're going to say that about everything. It all depends on what your thought process is going into it. So it's hard to go into something always with a fresh perspective once you have seen many other things in that particular genre or that particular vein, of movie or storytelling, whatever it might be. But the thing that you have to do is you have to be able to separate the good from the bad and recognize and not just go and label things as, well, that's just a cliche. No, it's actually the backstory for the character. Whether you've seen something similar to it or not before, it doesn't really matter. The point is that they're taking time to go and flesh out that character so you can feel some kind of emotional attachment towards them. And then, if at a later date a character is injured or killed or what have you, you have that emotional attachment, and then you're upset that it happens. You know what I mean? As opposed to just throwing a number of characters at you, a bunch of them, like in this Night Raid group, not fleshing out any of the characters, and then something happens and you're like, I don't give a shit. I didn't care about the character, And I've experienced some of that in a couple of different manga and anime. So I definitely like how they've been doing that. And kind of fleshing things out. Her past is, she basically was not good at anything, right? And then just by happenstance, by chance or whatever, she winds up befriending somebody who, thinks the world of her and everything else. And this chick's drugged out ex-boyfriend comes to the house one night and starts choking her out and is literally, like, killing her. And Shelley goes and winds up picking up this knife and just slashes the dude's throat, right? Turns out, and then, the backstabbing piece of shit friend, then, even though she laid her life on the line for and everything else for a druggy boyfriend, nah, they don't talk anymore. Never talked to her again. That was her only friend in the world to begin with. So she's always had this feeling of no self-worth and like, I can't do anything right. I have no skills, no talents, right? So, putting that off to the side, though, then, as she goes through the flashback, she winds up talking to and basically saying that the only thing that she found out, her, like, sort of quirky personality, not being good at any practical thing, winds up, for some reason or other, making her a very, very good assassin and killer. She wound up killing quite handily this guy's friends who came looking for her probably a couple of days afterwards once they found out about their buddy getting killed, and she winds up becoming an assassin. Eventually, is recruited by by Night Raid and everything else. So her backstory, again, like I said, although generic in some ways, I still think is nice and helps flesh out the character. And I like too because after she sees that Tatsumi's broken down and crying, she's sitting there kind of holding him, and she's like, "Listen, I won't tell anybody else about this. Don't worry about it. Your secret's safe with me. Just cry if you got to." And it's cool because it works in twofold, right? For him, obviously, has a shoulder to cry on and a friend. And for her, she has another thing that she feels like she's useful for, right? That she's needed for. And people need that. I mean, you do. You want to feel loved, wanted, needed. I mean, that's human. It's just simply... I don't know how I could go on with life if I didn't feel like I had friends or family or some kind of purpose, something that I was good at, So it absolutely, like I said, it hits home, I think, on a lot of different levels. So we also wind up seeing, they kind of go and have like a meeting as they do a lot of times, kind of like a team meeting, I like to call it, And Agenda, I believe, is the leader, goes and says, "Hey, listen, go ahead and try on the... what the hell was that thing called? The Spectator. The Spectator. That Imperial arm that the killer had, that the Executioner had, Xanth, the Executioner." And he goes and puts it on, and we wind up finding out that not all Imperial arms, number one, even if it's compatible with you, it's extremely physically and mentally exhausting to use these things, which we found out and heard from Akame just an episode or two ago when she explained to Tatsumi. But anyway, sometimes these things just are not compatible with a person. They just reject them. And that's what this particular thing does. This particular one is not compatible with him. Tatsumi is pretty naive in the sense that he's still looking, he still doesn't have that closure from his friends dying, and he still thinks that since all the Imperial arms aren't listed and haven't been discovered, that he might be able to go and actually find one that can resurrect the dead, right, to bring his friends back. And he's told in no uncertain terms by Bulat, no, that's not true. If the Emperor had done that to begin with, there was one of those to begin with, the Emperor would have stayed alive forever, He made these because he knew there was only one life. You only get one life, So I kind of like that too, because it just showed, number one, that he's still kind of a little bit naive, and although he fits in well with the team, I feel like he's not like a cold, trained killer yet. He hasn't seen some of the shit that they have. He still has like this sort of bright-eyed amazement and wonderment to things, and he hasn't seen some of the evils of the, of the realm, right, of the capital city. We then go and we're talking, and that kind of segues into, because he's asking about Imperial arms and everything, what the strongest one is. And the agenda explains, listen, that's all, it's difference of opinion, right? I mean, it all depends on the person's personal opinion. But my thoughts on what the most powerful one is the ice, one, the Imperial arms that has this ice power or whatever. And from what I understood, it was possessed by the leader of the Northerners, right? And I guess the Northern race are just trying to kind of rebel against and everything else. And then it kind of segues into showing what I think is one of the coolest characters that I've seen anyway so far. This badass looking chick, this General Esdeath. Man, it goes and it flashes to her, right? And in a short period of time, she took out, and buried and killed, 400,000 Northerners, right? And I'm talking soldiers, people, women, children, dogs, whatever, right? And we see this scene of her, and the dude, the guy that was supposed to be the strongest Imperial arms bearer in the North, unless, of course, I got that wrong somehow, is butt naked, and he's kneeling at her feet, licking her boot, right? And I'm just thinking, oh, shit. She winds up getting, during the course of the episode, they go actually to the capital, and they show the little kid emperor or whatever that's having his strings pulled by the fat slob shit meat-eating prime minister. That's all the guy does is eat stuff. But anyway, they're talking about, the Revolutionary Army and how they're obviously coming for him and this and that, the resistance, the rebellion, whatever you'd like to call it. And that basically they're going to call General Esdeath back, back down from north now, to kind of, I'm assuming to go and send her on a mission. So that's going to be kind of one of those impending things too. But man, did she just look cool, and I am just, I'm dying to see more of her. So definitely a cool character for me anyway. The episode winds up ending off then with, we get Tatsumi and Leone, the big-booed blonde chick that her Imperial arm, she can kind of turn into like a tiger or lion-type cat, whatever, so very cool. Reminds me of like Lionel from the Thundercats, but with tits. So anyway, she and him are walking through this district and what have you, and they get separated as the bottom line. And he winds up coming upon, I believe her name was Seryu, but she's a soldier, you know, a soldier in the Imperial Army, I guess, right? And you know, for the capital there and everything. And it turns out, well, first of all, she winds up just kind of helping him because he's lost and everything else. He doesn't realize at the time, and realizes afterwards, at the end of the episode, that she was actually like a pupil of that General Ogre that he wound up killing in episode 2, I believe. So, and she's kind of vowed to go and get vengeance on him. She's got this weird sort of like, it sort of seems to like get her off or get her high about like the sense of justice that she has. There's this cool little weird dog, panda bear looking thingy, I guess you would call it. And I forget the name of it, but it's an Imperial arm, and basically they tried using it with a bunch of the higher-ups, you know, and it wound up just not being compatible with them and actually killing a bunch of the different soldiers. So they eventually got to the point where the cream of the crop wasn't working, so they just started, like, having regular soldiers come in and finding out and just testing this thing to see who it was compatible with. It wound up liking her for her bright, vibrant sense of humor, and I guess her love of justice, and it wound up taking to her. So, anyways, very, very cool stuff, though. Certainly one of my favorite episodes so far, and you know, definitely that's kind of a neat plot point to see how everything's going to wind up shaking out in the end, because you know that she's going to wind up coming after him now as well, Tetsumi, because that's how the episode closes out, with her kind of like, you know, going into this monologue and seeing this flashback of when she was actually training with General Ogre. So, all in all, very cool stuff. I'd like to know what you think, of course, brothers and sisters, but my question for you, my episode question is, what are your thoughts on this badass-looking woman, General Esdeath, and obviously her future involvement in this series? Let me know what your answer is to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
As always, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to my other channels.